On a cold November evening in 1981, deep in the mountainous heart of Shanxi Province, a passenger train entered the darkness of the Dazhai Tunnel and never truly came out the same. Inside those pitch-black walls, fire and smoke turned a routine journey into one of the deadliest and most quietly buried rail disasters in Chinese history. For decades, the details were hidden. Even now, the exact number of lives lost remains a mystery.
In the early 1980s, China's railway system was a lifeline for millions. Highways were limited, air travel was rare and expensive, and for many, trains were the only way to connect cities and provinces. The Dazhai Tunnel, carved through the rugged mountains of Shanxi, was a vital link in the region's transport chain. Opened in the mid-1970s, it stretched for over a kilometer underground, built during a period when speed of construction often outweighed modern safety standards. In the winter, Shanxi's terrain was harsh, steep hills, narrow valleys, and tunnels where daylight disappeared in seconds. Ventilation systems in many of these tunnels were basic at best. If something went wrong inside, there was little room for escape. On the afternoon of November 24, 1981, a mixed passenger and freight service departed from Taiwan, heading south. The train carried several hundred passengers in multiple carriages, along with wagons loaded with goods, one of which contained flammable cargo. Most passengers were workers, students returning home, and families traveling to visit relatives. The atmosphere on board was typical of Chinese trains at the time: noisy, crowded, filled with the scent of boiled noodles and cigarette smoke. By early evening, the temperature had dropped sharply. The train's windows were fogged with condensation, and many passengers wrapped themselves in coats and blankets to keep warm. Around 7 p.m., the train approached the entrance of the Dazhai Tunnel. The surrounding hills loomed like dark silhouettes. The driver sounded the horn, and the train rumbled forward into the yawning blackness. Inside, the sound changed. Wheels echoed sharply against the concrete walls, and light from the carriage windows barely reached the tunnel's damp surfaces. There were no emergency walkways, no lighting systems, just an enclosed space designed for a train to pass through as quickly as possible. Witness accounts later suggested that the fire began in one of the freight wagons positioned behind the passenger coaches. The cargo reportedly included chemical products and possibly paint or fuel, materials prone to ignition under certain conditions. It's unclear exactly how it started. Some survivors claimed they heard a muffled explosion, followed by the smell of burning. Others described seeing flickers of orange light reflecting off the tunnel walls. In the confined space of the tunnel, there was nowhere for the smoke to go. Within minutes, thick, choking fumes began to sweep through the train. Passengers nearest to the freight section were the first to panic. Some tried to move forward, pushing through crowded aisles. Others attempted to break windows, but with the train still moving, there was little hope of escape. The driver, realizing something was wrong, tried to accelerate to exit the tunnel, but by then, the smoke had already filled several carriages. Ventilation in the tunnel was minimal, and the train's own movement only pushed the smoke forward. People began collapsing from carbon monoxide inhalation. Those who stayed conscious stumbled over bodies in the dim light, desperately covering their faces with scarves, coats, or sleeves. The train finally emerged from the south end of the tunnel, but the damage had been done. Several carriages were already filled with unconscious and, in many cases, lifeless passengers. The fire in the freight wagon had grown, threatening to spread further. Railway staff detached the burning section and tried to extinguish it, using portable extinguishers and buckets of water from nearby sources. But it was too late to save many of those overcome by the smoke. The official reports were vague. Some claimed fewer than 100 deaths. Others, based on leaked accounts from railway workers, suggested the toll could have been 2 or even 3 times higher. The Chinese authorities at the time were known for controlling information about disasters, often to maintain public confidence and political stability. Families were often given minimal explanations. Some were told their relatives had died from sudden illness during the journey. In other cases, no official confirmation ever came, only silence. Why was this disaster never widely reported? Several reasons stand out. The incident occurred during a politically sensitive period, when China was pushing forward with modernization and wanted to project an image of progress. The railway line was strategically important for transporting coal and industrial goods from Shanxi's mines. Publicity about its dangers could have disrupted operations. The cause, dangerous cargo mixed with passenger transport, was a policy failure the authorities were reluctant to admit. For years, the Dazhai Tunnel fire was spoken about only in whispers among locals and railway workers. It became one of those unofficial tragedies that never entered the history books in full detail. Today, there is still no memorial at the site. The tunnel remains in use, modernized with better ventilation, but few passengers passing through know what happened there in 1981. For the families who lost loved ones, the lack of answers has been as painful as the loss itself. Many believe the true death toll will never be known. The Great Dazhai Tunnel fire was not just a railway accident, it was a reminder of how quickly ordinary journeys can turn into life-and-death struggles, and how fragile human life is in the face of fire, smoke, and secrecy. In the darkness of that tunnel, the passengers of 1981 fought for their last breaths, and their story deserves to be told, even if it took decades for the world to hear it.